No, it's an
After the
Otsego. It's
Otsego?
not bad.
yeah, yard stuff.
Oh.
After
I can talk to.
we were just busy all last weekend, so it'd be nice to just do whatever.
I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, we can
What
call.
about you?
We can
Going up?
talk to our mayor because he
3
and Tom are
days?
like super tight 'cause they serve
Oh, are
together
they
in the
really?
house. Yeah.
Because
So
this is good. He has a 18-year-old sister,
probably should.
17-year-old
So
sister
they're
that he's
trapped in
scared
Afghanistan.
to death.
Maybe.
So what happened to the 20-year-old? They snatched him.
But for whatever reason, so I just
Who
don't
did,
know
the
where
Taliban?
but we can
I don't know where he's at. I mean, if he's even alive, but they're trying to find him.
And they were helping military with
The dad,
interpreters.
the brother was
Oh, I told her a different one.
an interpreter with the special forces, and he actually speaks 5 languages.
Sweet.
He speaks 5. I mean, these
I
guys
know.
are
You can barely
14,
speak
28.
one.
I know, me too. But
Okay.
I mean, they're decent people.
Okay.
5 in August.
I will talk to
My week's in
Tim when I
August.
leave. I'll call him and
So
see
And
if he
his
can.
mom actually
August to
worked
September?
for the military
Yeah.
through a company. So she didn't work direct, but she had the same thing. She had the same.
Well,
They're looking for her and
Do you
the
have
brother.
any connections to Senator Klobuchar or Senator Smith?
Oh, we going to Michigan.
All right, we have some.
Right.
So I'll talk to Tim when
Might go this week.
there.
Hey, I really appreciate
19th.
that.
Yeah,
Because then the board meeting's the next
Really
week.
scary
Yeah, it's
stuff.
super scary stuff.
And
Absolutely, it's scary.
especially
Michigan,
the
then?
really sister.
I don't blame them. They're young people. Ew,
Yeah, and he's got like a 7-year-old.
If it's just consent agenda, it's just consent.
Yeah, I'll talk to Tim. But like I said, he's got staff at
Oh, shoot. That was
Awesome. Well, if you hear of anything, I would.
It's in him. It's, I mean, we have a retainer.
I'm trying to think of what staff he has here now.
Well, in this.
27?
I know he's not
There's just
here.
a wrong date.
I know. That, I mean, at least I didn't think he was.
No, he's not here.
They've got
The 24th
all
of
the
May.
paperwork.
How
we
come
need.
29.
They just need to get out.
They just need to get out.
Yeah.
And they keep telling them to go to Afghanistan, but they won't.
Right.
Afghanistan.
Okay, okay. Go back up.
So,
Yeah, because then you can't get out of Afghanistan.
Yes, okay, okay. Yes, which will, I'm noting that it makes the note taker have a difficult time hearing.
we're talking school? No, not the high school.
I'll try not to cough in it.
No, we have an iron sandy filter between wind and steel.
Yes, yep.
My question was,
Oh, it's just custom. It's habit. Plus, I just use a mom voice all the
Clean up
time.
the bed.
Said it was your karaoke voice.
so I'm asking,
I don't know if y'all are ready for a karaoke voice, but
but,
Hey,
and just.
whatever works.
I mean, if we have a retreat or something and there's booze involved,
Yeah, yeah.
I'll come to party.
Yeah, there you go.
We'll karaoke it up.
So we'll call the meeting to order of the Rice Creek Watershed District Board. It's our regular meeting on Wednesday, May 24th, 2023, 9 a.m. at the Shoreview City Hall Council members. Roll call, I see that we are all present. Set the agenda. Any changes to the agenda?
Staff have no changes.
Anyone else have a change to the agenda? Hearing none, can I have a motion, please, to accept the agenda?
I'll move to accept the agenda, Mr. President.
I'll second.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
No negatives. Minutes, can we have a motion with regard to the May 8th, 2023 workshop minutes?
Mr. President, I will move that we approve the minutes for May 8th, 2023 workshop and the May 10th regular meeting.
Second?
And we're going to do two at once. I think it's a wonderful idea.
Efficiencies.
Any comments or concerns? So we got first and second. Okay, so all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Passes. See, you bring someone new in and they improve us.
Ah,
Thank you for that.
oh, sure.
Consent agenda, Patrick?
Yes, President Bradley, we have 3 applications for your consideration today. I do have an extremely minor change for application 2327. I'll take you to page 29 of the packet. This is for the City of Fridley's Moore Lake Park Improvement Project. Give everyone a minute on page 29. all the way at the bottom of the page in the description section, we have a sentence in the middle that identifies the comprehensive stormwater management plan approval. The date listed is 10/26/2023. That has obviously not happened yet, so we'd like to change it to 2022.
All right. Are there any questions of Patrick? If not, can I have a motion, please?
Mr. President, I move to Cap Rock permit number 23-003, 23-024, and 23-027.
With that minor change.
With the minor, yes, with the change.
I'll second that. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none. Patrick, thank you. Nice job again. Mr. Tomzak,
Yes, next we have open mic.
open mic. So, do we have anyone on the phone? Oh, apparently not. And we don't have anyone in the audience, so there you go. We'll move on to the next item.
Yes, Manager Bradley, next. Items requiring board action. Number 1 is the Rice Creek Watershed District 2023 Board of Managers calendar adjustment. The board adopted its calendar managers December 14th, 2022. At a recent meeting, you had an inquiry and discussion regarding changing that to avoid a periodic conflict. And consensus at that meeting was to move the workshop start time to 9 a.m. the same Monday before the second Wednesday of the month. This requires a board action. Within your packet on page 36, you will see the updated calendar that adjusts the start time to 9 a.m. for your workshops, June 12th, July 10th, August 7th, September 11th, October 9th, November 6th, and December 11th.
Can I have a motion, please?
Mr. President, I'll move to adopt the revised 2023 Board of Managers calendar.
And a second, please.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, it passes. Another improvement from our vice member. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, thank you for being flexible.
I believe we're up to the check register.
Mr. President, I move that we adopt or approve the check register dated May 24th, 2023 in the amount of $353,508.29.
A second, please.
Second?
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes.
Mr. Chair, I'd also like to add some treasurer's comments at this point.
Please.
Sure. Letting the board know that yesterday we met in the quarterly meeting for the quarterly treasurer's meeting, which is the first one I've attended in my new position. We reviewed the budget and current expenditures. In addition, we visited with Corey Bauer, who's with PMA regarding the 4M funds. We've discussed previously what we wanted to do with some funds that were available for investment, and this is a follow-up from the meeting that we had in the fall. So we definitely want to be public stewards of the finances that we have, so we will continue to look at some options that we might have for those funds, and we will be discussing this at the June 12th workshop.
Very good. Any questions of the treasurer? Hearing none, I guess we're rolling right around. First item is Mr. Tomzak.
Yes, Board of Managers, an item for discussion and information is the Lennar Corporation ACD 55 order and the permit 1846. We'd like to provide an update. We have both Tom Schmidt and Terrence Chaston Davis to discuss both the permit side and the public drainage side.
Thank you.
Good morning, President Bradley, Board of Managers. Before you today, starting on page 67 of your packet, is our introduction memo regarding the Lennar development and the reroute of ACD 55. The development is still ongoing and has been permitted through multiple permits. But we wanted to discuss the board resolution 2017-28 that can be found on page 69 in your board packets. This was for a petition to reroute a portion of ACD 55 so that the development could progress and build out lots and progress with the development. A part of that petition was making sure that they constructed the reroute in accordance with how we approved the petition. September 15th of 2022, they provided an as-built survey to us of this reroute, and we found some deficiencies and some concerns with how things were left, and have been kind of ongoing in communicating with them regarding our concerns and working with them to try to provide an update on that.
Yes. Board of Managers, the goal here was to get them to the applicant or the petitioner, or the orderee, I guess you'd call it. I mean,
Orderly.
the person who asked for the change in the drainage system to demonstrate that they built it in the way they said they would. And your engineer recommended that you approve this based on their plans. And to date, they have not demonstrated that it's been built that way. In fact, the as-built was not a requirement. They submitted that on their own, I believe. So that we've asked them to, either repair it or demonstrate that it's not a deficiency, and they have done neither. But yesterday, late in the afternoon, we received an email from the petitioner or the developer noticing that it was on the agenda today, and they've committed to getting us that information now.
What,
Go ahead, Steve.
President?
what is it you're looking for, or what are they not?
Well, there's areas of the rerouted ditch it's tile, drain tile, that is negative grade or flat. So that the main concern is that it's gonna cause a impact upstream.
Okay.
And it's an area that's, already of very limited capacity. This is the area east of 35E, like along Lino, and east and west of kind of 35E splits the drainage area.
So this was 6 years ago. I mean, are these the same people who are now trying to work with us on further expansion of this program? I mean, trying to figure out what kind of leverage we have.
So we issued the permit for this development so it's permit 18-046. We issued it in 2018, I believe. So it's still a relatively recent development permit that we've issued, and leverage-wise, the permit's still open and still has some outstanding things.
Yeah, but are they in business? I mean, are they still, is this the same people that have recently asked us to expand and move other parts of this ditch?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So this is an ongoing enterprise who still should want to like us.
Correct.
Yes.
And want us to like them.
Correct.
Okay.
So, Mr. President.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. So Tom and Terrence, thank you for coming to the meeting, and thank you for bringing this up. And this is part of the process, which begins the leverage is the word you used on this. And this is a 5 or 6 year old permit issue. It has to do with the drainage that's on the east side of the freeway, as Tom said. We're talking particularly about what I would call the old winter farm and the apple orchard. And there's a tremendous amount of development that's just happening along 14 as you drive over the freeway going forward, commercial. That happens to be the commercial corridor between the freeway and the Washington County line for the city of Lino Lakes, as I understand. So it's very important. And I think, I don't know if it's the berm, it's just causing the problem of the flats, something in there. But I think what happens is this is a long-term development that's going on, and we need to check with the city and begin the process here of having the city finish their, I think they're going to build a ditch in there, and eventually they want to connect it with the 55 with their stormwater issues or infrastructure. And in order to do that, we need to get something going here and finish up so this gets to be complicated in a hurry because I think the DNR is involved in this for the city, and the city's plans maybe, to do this in 5 years, and maybe we don't want to wait 5 years. Maybe we want to be, how are they going to use the other side of the freeway? There's a lot of moving parts in here is what I'm saying. But this is the way to get it started. Thank you, gentlemen, because we'll get the city to work with the developer, and maybe we can get something done, and that not just become stalled for another decade, which is not uncommon. Marcy?
So, Mr. President, Terrence and Tom, do I understand that when you put this memo together, you hadn't received anything from the orderee, and yesterday you did? And would you review for us what did they say? What's their action?
Manager Wynett, so we were communicating with them, but it had been quite some time since we have heard a response from them, and then I communicated with them that we were going to be discussing with the board today, and that's when they responded yesterday. Their response was brief, but it was they want to try to verify or demonstrate that the capacity and function of the system still exceeds what existed previously, and they mentioned that they are discussing with their consultant that helped them with the development, but that's all they gave us, so there's not much context there quite yet. And we just want to make sure that the ball is still moving with this, because we've been kind of going back and forth since September of last year.
Mr. Tomzak?
Thank you. Board of Managers, Terrence is correct. I'd like to add that there's been email exchange with our engineer, which is of utmost importance, that they coordinate with them on what would be acceptable to the district to demonstrate the function. And so whatever they intend to bring forward is fruitful. I'll note that the team brought forth the concern early on after the September of 2022 as-built that was submitted, and so this has gone on for quite some time with I'll say limited response or motivation to address it, in my opinion. And so we don't want these to fester or be forgotten about, and for folks to honor both the order that the board issued for 103E, but also the permit that you allowed them to proceed consistent with that. Your regulations, Manager Waller is correct. It's our understanding that the city intends some date in the future to continue with its, what we've affectionately called the super ditch or the super outlet. This is a constrained area on the east side of 35W. It needs some replumbing, hence the super pipe. There's nothing in the foreseeable future or that's been communicated to the district to date that would suggest that that is close at hand. And in regards to development on the east side, that would facilitate moving this whole pipe forward and interest in development. Maybe that's not known to us, but it would concern me for the district to, I would suggest that the district further engage on its authorities, communicate the need for these issues to be addressed outside of what the city may be doing. Although I will recognize that Terrence and Tom have both had engagement with the city. The city made note of its super pipe idea and like this will fix the problem. But on the east side of the freeway, we have agricultural land that's dependent on the tile system, and the district has an obligation to ensure that for those benefited parties.
Do we still have the bond or whatever surety they provided us?
We do.
That's good.
Mr. President.
Yeah, John?
So I would note that the staff has properly suggested a deadline for the response by the developer by June 30th, 2020. It sounds like you already succeeded with that. Hope you'll have more response. And I would also, I think the stormwater plan from Lionel Lakes, as I've been told, includes this plan for the quote big ditch or whatever it is in there, and that the city be actively engaged in here. Remember this, in the past, some cities such as Roseville, for example, have taken over portions of ditch number 4 in Ramsey County, and Forest Lake has taken over, coincidentally, ditch number 4 portions in Forest Lake. That may be part of the plan in the end here of how this works out. But it definitely, I do agree that it needs to have some more information and more detail of what what the plan is to move forward on. And so the gentleman will get the administrative state of the developer and the city and the Watershed District in coordination to move forward on this and what they're going to do. Thank you for your work on this.
I can't think of anything more critical to us than enforcement of our own permitting that was intended to provide protection people upstream. So I agree, we need to bring all our forces to bear as necessary.
Mr. President, just before we go charging down to the courthouse,
As necessary.
We aren't that far yet, and the detail here be work. The staff will turn as I used to call one of our former inspectors, the velvet hammer will be applied.
Louis?
Mr. President, managers, I heard my call, charging to the courthouse. I do want to observe that before going to the courthouse, the board has the authority to convene an enforcement proceeding that conveys a level of formality and gives the opportunity for the applicant orderee to appear before the board and make commitments that they're able to make, and all of the costs that are incurred by the district in that proceeding and any further enforcement are recoverable under the Watershed Act. So there is a way to get their attention by marking that proceeding, which doesn't involve going to court.
I thank you, Mr. President. Thank you. I don't disagree. There's a need to have people be aware of the process involvement here. It's just, and myself being educated. Thank you. But I have a great deal of faith in the staff of the cities and the Watershed District working together to provide a solution for this that's going to be long-term, and that includes the big ditch and the DNR's authority and the whole, because that is a fast-growing. We're going to see more and more development going over there, and how it changes that agricultural land is changing today with new businesses and shops being built in there on Otter Lake Avenue or Street or whatever it is, drive it is there. So,
Marcy?
Well, Mr. President, we know that this, as you said, John, will continue to grow the development, and that it's all over the district. So I guess my question is, when does an enforcement procedure occur? Do we want to reinforce this June 30th, 2023 date? We certainly want to, this is the first I've heard about since I've been on the board, an issue like this. Because there's so much development going on, we really need to put our stake in the ground of how we're going to handle these, because it could be replicated in other development pieces. So what's been the past practice, and how do we move forward with this?
so Mr. President, the past practice in Forest Lake was to let the city take over the ditch. That's what the past practice was on both branch number 1 and branch number 2. So at least in my experience, and what went on in Roseville, we've done lately. It's just but at this point, I don't think we have enough information gathered yet to jump ahead.
Well, let's not talk about this specifically then. Let's just
But
use
we
it in
have had enforcement issues, yeah, in the past.
with developers.
Usually individuals.
Yeah.
Jose?
Yeah, President Bradley, Board of Managers, I certainly recognize the district working with its municipalities where it might be fruitful for them to take over the public drainage system and administer accordingly. To me, that may be in play in the future, but at this point in time, it's really about the interim condition. Under the most recent one in Roseville, it was certainly a well-coordinated effort where the function of the system maintained intact while the work was completed. I might suggest as a consensus position to reinforce the June 30th date that staff put forth, that the responsible parties provide definitive clarity on the existing condition. They submitted an as-built. Our engineer and the data would suggest that we don't believe it's functioning right. They're taking I'll say informal, or their communications would indicate it's not that big of a deal. Forgive me, that's my spin on it. You know, that it may be acceptable as it is, but that's really something I think technically your engineer should share with you. I would note again the date of September 22nd, at which time the as-built was provided. I would think that any ongoing work on the site, when they became aware of the condition of what they were installing, that there's no, their ongoing work would not compromise the ability to correct it. You know, my understanding is there's a berm involved. It may take a lot of work to correct it, but that's, their construction management should not undermine the district's function of the system.
So, Mr. President, so what I'm listening to is that we need to find out what information comes about by the June 30th, and from there, continue the discussion.
I would think clearly the communication from the district expressing the concern of this board and the insistence of this board to meeting these concerns.
Very good. Board President, Board of Managers will look to Terrence to respond to the most recent, Terrence and Tom to respond to the most recent email. I would suggest that include some communication, obviously, about what you just shared about the board's concern, but then also directing them to engage our engineer on the condition and how it is best documented.
So clearly they are aware that we were meeting today, so they should be advised of what concerns were raised.
Yes.
And Mr. President, and I assume that you'll also copy the city and keep them informed directly and talk to them. I mean, we need the city's partnership in this.
Yes. Board of Managers, the city was on the email chain. Yes.
Thank you.
Anything further? Well, see, we found something to talk about this morning. All right, what's next? Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Board President, next on the agenda for information and discussion are the staff reports.
Maybe this would be a good opportunity for you to introduce your new staff member.
Very well. Board of Managers and consultants and staff, please meet Abby Tequila.
Abby, if you would go over there, we're going to get you on the record. So now the whole public knows you're here.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Abby is taking the role of one of the new positions that the board approved, which is the program support technician. The job description currently focuses on the district's historic permits and making sure that what we affectionately say, stop the bleeding, so we're not creating those, and make sure that our historic affairs are in order. Also, information technology, coordination, and support to those of us who weren't born in an age of computers and that sort of thing. So that's appreciated, but that also
Nobody here that's a century old.
also plays into forecasting the needs for the district and its budget, et cetera. Other than that, as I communicated with Abby, it's maybe akin to your other new employee, Abel Green, who is a field support technician here. Abigail will be a little bit more focused on the internal side, supporting the district, specifically Teresa and the assembly of the packet and such.
Hallelujah.
Yeah. I rambled a bit there, but maybe Abigail would like to say
We've
something.
been wanting to help, our office manager for a long time, so that's good news.
So, I have a question about these historic permits. Can you say a little bit more about what they are, where they hang out? Maybe you've got it all figured out already. But,
Unfortunately, this is day 3 for me,
Okay.
so I do not at this time.
Yeah.
have it figured
Okay,
out,
so
but I
maybe
will
Pat-
in time. I will.
yeah,
Yes.
Patrick or Nick, and maybe many of them were
Yeah.
you inherited yourself. Okay.
Yeah. Board of Managers, staff often see me go like this. This refers to the ebb and flow of the economy and the volume of permits that we have. Historically, even at the time I came on in 2008, there were any number of permits that were in conditional approval waiting for materials, but the economy was booming and people were moving dirt regardless of the permitting, and we collaborated as best possible. Involved in that is a district obligation on its sureties, monies received for these projects, which we hold and have to be good custodians of. And we have a permit database that's rather robust. And we want all those measures to mark together. We want to eliminate the creation of these, be able to communicate amongst staff and certainly to the board, number of open permits, how many each inspector is utilizing, that sort of thing, and have common unified terminology for what it means to be closed versus sites not inactive. You know, we have ebbs and flows in each project in different phases and such. So real good management of that system, specifically focusing on the custodial efforts on the surety. And with that, I'll certainly open it to Patrick.
Mr. President, just for a moment here. When Nick came on board here, he inherited a large situation of over 400 permits that were just sitting in limbo land for no better reasons. He's whittled those down. They're less than half of that now. I don't know what the recent number is, but it was one of our priority duties when I came on the board was to return these assurities like at the time, and I think we're well under 200, probably closer to 100 now. I haven't asked in years, but it was a priority project. And of course, in those days, interest rates were bigger at the bank, so there wasn't any motivation to turn the money back. You know, you were collecting the interest, which the district kept as but Nick did a tremendous job there as permit coordinator, because that was primarily where it was to work with him, and then you had Patrick came along and worked back. In fact, Miss Patrick started as Teresa's assistant, part of his duties, and look where he is today. I just want to point that out to you that this has been a long project, and there has been significant progress to making the program work smoothly. But you have a economic downturn, and suddenly these people go bankrupt, as you were asking. Do we still have leverage on this developer? Is he still there? And so we've worked very hard at that.
Thank you.
Board of Managers, excellent point by Manager Waller. That whittling away of this issue or its continual churning of it is owed to all staff in putting forth a big effort to accomplish it.
So thank you. I'll let you go back. So I think we're on staff reports. Anyone have any comments or questions?
They're busy. Can you give us an update about the ditch 53 and, is it 53?
62.
The one where we lost the digger?
Yeah, the digger, the backhoe.
The backhoe.
Board President, Board of Managers, that's Anoka County Ditch 5362 and the cleaning of the main trunk moving through the Circle Pines area where the backhoe tipped. I'm going to look at Chris Otterness, and maybe Tom would like to comment if he has something, but I think they're developing their plans of how to best move forward. But I'll open it.
Manager Wynant, the contractor hasn't done much out on site now because they're still waiting for the tree contractor to essentially get the machine fixed that broke out there. They essentially had to, rebuild the engine or replace the engine on that excavator because it was tipped on its side while running, and Manager Wegman knows what that's all about. So
big money.
yeah. So, it's been delayed for them to get back out there. They've been able to do a few more minor activities like cleaning up some of the areas where they still had access, but the limiting factor is still getting the tree clearing done. The contractor has provided an updated plan of attack for getting that done, so we're happy with the responsiveness they provided on that, and now we're just waiting to have the equipment out there to be able to execute it.
Board President, Chris, it may be important to, there's no change in the major completion date. I'm missing the terminology there. They haven't requested an extension at this time any further than the previous conversation.
Correct. They have not requested a change in the substantial completion date yet. And we'll see how that turns out. We still got another month and a week and a half or so besides for them to get to that substantial completion done. And so I guess it'll remain in their court to achieve that date and or identify for us if that's going to be problematic. So
Just to follow, do you anticipate this happening in any other ditch system? I mean, if I understand this right, it was a rather thin layer of sand and then to peat?
yes, and I would say that it's not necessarily common, those exact conditions, but it certainly isn't unheard of. There are unstable soils along nearly every one of our ditch systems of some varying shape or form. And certainly we have that project, Judicial Ditch 3 branches 1, 2, and 4 that will be completing this fall that you've already approved the contract for. And they're going to run into unstable soils on that one too. And it's a matter of, as they're working through there to be able to identify those situations and utilize the whatever means they have in order to address that. And I would assume that they'll likely be utilizing mats on that one, particularly where they have to work through the public water in one location where it's going to be more of a deep bog area that they have to traverse, So it certainly is a fact of life on any of the drainage systems that we're going to encounter issues along there, and the contractor certainly has to be prepared for that.
And I would suspect in this case too, the pre-work we did with the community members and the city itself has returned multiple fold as far as public relations with them.
Yes, I would say that we've had as much public relations work on this project as any of them we've done to date, and it's been critical to have done that, and we're going to be very diligent about continuing that in the future.
Thank you.
Nick?
Board of Managers, quick additional thought here is, yes, it is, these ditch systems were established in wet, low areas to connect and move water. The pool of contractors that have an interest in doing that versus working in nice dry soils and excavating is a unique group, and one that we look to foster and appreciate their endurance and tolerance for those conditions. Chris mentioned a mat, railroad ties tied together to put the machine on. You've approved use of a large floating excavator to complete this work. So it is challenging work, and they do as best possible.
Good observation, that we need to be kind and friendly to these people who are helping us. Yes, appreciate that reminder. So, on to the June calendar then?
Yes, Board President, Board of Managers, next is the June calendar. Please note that with foresight there, we have our June 5th special workshop at 9 a.m. The other board workshop on June 12th is also at that 9 a.m. start time, consistent with what you just approved. No other comments on that.
And just to note, I will not be in attendance on the June 28th meeting.
So administrators update.
Yes, Board of Managers, I'll note that the JD through E Phase 2 project on Branch 1, 2, and 4, the project's moving forward. You approved that by resolution. I've since signed the construction agreement, issued the notice to proceed under the advice of council. There was a minor change order that addressed some erroneous language in the contract that was unnecessary. So that's good. It's that time of year, I'll add, that we're receiving inquiries for the district to remove abandoned debris out of the creek, such as an old canoe. We've been asked to dredge several areas. When are you coming to do this? You'll recall our past staff communications with the board. That's not part of our natural stream policy, nor those man-made excavations that were littered across the state before some of the environmental regulations we have today. So we support folks as best we can, note our assistance with shoreline stabilization and these types of things, but we are not promoting any excavation by the district for those purposes.
How about the canoe?
The canoe, took it under as informational, but we don't really have a team of refuge removal and disposal team for that. So,
Mr. Waller?
So, Mr. President, I assume that you are working with whatever community park and recreation facility, because these communities that use the natural water courses, that would be the appropriate, and they would have also the machinery and personnel to do those kinds of things.
Board of Managers, the comment actually came from one of our communities. I think they were hoping that we would address the issue. So they noted the longevity of its presence there. We stand ready in how we might support.
Okay, super. John?
Mr. President, I will attend tomorrow the Ag Drainage Futures meeting down in Madison Lake, Minnesota. It'll be for me to, I'm interested in that, of course. I did attend the Forest Lake City Council meeting the other day, and I also, before that, had some meetings with the Hugo City staff. And the staff is interested, of course, in the upcoming budget and how the funding's going to come through. First, I'd note that if you take a look at the Citizen newspaper in Hugo, which I mentioned to the crew here, to the team, they had a list of all their city stormwater projects that they've done, and it was just kind of a nice little definition of what was going on. But they have some particular needs they pointed out. One was the public access to Bald Eagle Lake needs some funding here over on 121st Street. It's a real narrow pickup truck lane to back down into, and it's quite steep. It's been an issue before. They're looking at it again. Second, they were looking for some money to study the stormwater pond designs that we use for reuse. That maybe it's that that stormwater pond idea came out of Hugo, out of their city, and they wanted to now work a little bit more refining on how the pond is actually built so that it better services the use of reuse on it. And you also remember that Hugo had to go down to the legislature so that the DNR didn't, with their rulings, were contrary to what the city and the district were doing at that time. And so we got that changed, and hopefully that won't get changed back now. And then another one was the equipment grants. The city, for example, is on a 10-year equipment replacement for some items. I don't know, it might be 15 for others. But they wanted to have some kind of built agreements or such built into the district, or the district to think about when we make these extra grants for sweet sweepers that have vacuums on them, or for vacuum trucks for cleaning the sumps out or such, that this isn't just a one and done thing, that when the equipment schedule comes for replacement, that they know that the grant money would still be available again at another time. So they're looking for long-range interchange and with the city budgets and the watershed budgets at that time. Finally, of course, there's always this, as Manager Marcy likes to tell us, what about the stormwater ponds? And the city of Hugo has the same interest as in that. Now, up at Forest Lake, I was there on Monday, and I listened to the meeting, and I want to thank very large thank you to Senator Housley. And the budget bill that got through, $5 million in stormwater money is in that budget bill for Forest Lake. So this has to do with the project that we've been working on for a long time, 6, maybe 7 years now, where the new county library is, and service for center, the YMCA, that whole development in there, and this portion of the ditch that was taken over by Forest Lake on ditch number 4. And now that whole $5 million I don't believe is for that entire project. I mean, it's for the city. They have Comfort Lake, Forest Lake also, and a big development going on downtown. But I think that $5 million was a pretty sizable sum, and Forest Lake got a total of $11 million for other things altogether. So they did fairly well, and thank you, Senator Housley, for that. I understand she shepherded it through, and so that's very important there. And then finally, I just want to mention again that the cities need to have some long-term certainty of the funding for these projects. All of them, they're working here. We collect quite a bit of taxes from them. In Washington County, it's well over $1 million now every year. Hugo alone this year will be $428,700. Forest Lakes, for their portion, is $197,371. I think when I first started looking at this, Forest Lake was like $127,000. And Forest Lake plans to build houses. They want more single-family houses, and they're going to put them between 61 and the county line, which is 35, all the way down to Hugo, because that's where the sewer is for the main sewer. That's where the gas lines are. That's where the freeway on both sides into. So they have rezoned that whole area to be single-family homes. So we're talking from 180th Street all the way north to 202. So that's a couple miles and north and a couple miles west, I should say, that are in there. So this partnerships with the cities are very important, because Hugo is coming north. They're at 160, almost at 165th now, and it might take another time. I know the economy's slowing down. I see the number of lumber cars going into Schweeters isn't as much as it was a year and a half ago. But I just want to remind you that during the last recession, the city of Hugo built 100 homes every year. So other than that, I don't have any other comments. Thank you.
Well, John, thank you for that. You, of course, are aware that we had set a budget each year for how much money we can spend, and we have a whole 27 cities who all want support, and we will do our best job we can with the resources we have. That's all I can say at this point.
Well, I understand that, Mr. President. And of course, as you know, I'm a great advocate for more detailed budgeting to the areas that provide it. And I will continue that advocacy.
I have no doubt.
It's, you know, that's part of my, as it is for everyone here. And to bring home the dollars, I wish you and Manager Wynett the greatest luck with Senator Marty to be able to do as well as we have done with Senator Housley.
Well, you want Senator Housley to move, maybe?
We're not letting her go.
There you go. Marcy?
I have nothing.
Steve, we'll go to you next.
I have nothing.
Robert?
Nope.
Okay, and I similarly have nothing to add. We were on track to be the fastest ever, but we had important things to do, so.
Anytime you talk of ditches, it takes time.
Motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? And we are adjourned.
Yes.
Yep.
Stormwater.